Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Torah Hashem Be'ezras Hashem Yisbach. As we broadcast from our flagship station over here at the Agudas Yisrael Vayeira Gems of Fairways Lakewood, starting with tremendous Hakaras HaTov to TorahAnytime.com for allowing us to broadcast in 187 countries to Kol HaLashon. And to all of you for coming and joining us. Tonight's shir is being dedicated by Jane and Alice Pulitzmacher in honor of our very own Mr. and Mrs. Elia Yaffe, that they should have Gesund, Nachas, and Hatzlacha. So it's interesting. I want to start off the shir tonight with a very powerful thought from Rav Steinman, Zecher Tzadik V'Kodesh L'Bracha Zchus Yorgen Aleinu. We know it says that Avram Avinu, when he did the amazing Hachnosas Orchim hospitality in the third day of his circumcision at the age of 100, in a tremendous heat wave, when Hashem took the sun out of its sack, he said, Yukach no ma'at mayim, take now a little water, v'rachatzu ragleichem, and wash your feet. So unlike the other stuff that he did himself, this he delegated. And Rashi tells us, Yukach no al yedei shliach, that the getting of the water for the washing he delegated through a messenger. V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu shilem lebanav al yedei shliach. And Hashem then rewarded the children also with water through an agent that Moshe Rabbeinu hit the rock. On the other hand, the stuff that he brought himself, then Hashem gave himself, like the man, etc. Says Rav Steinman. From here you see the consequences of a small deviation. If Avraham Avinu would have brought the water himself, then Hashem would have given us the water. Moshe Rabbeinu would have not had to hit the rock. There wouldn't have been the chait of the Mei Meriva. Moshe Rabbeinu would have entered into Eretz Yisrael, built the Beis HaMikdash, and it would have lasted forever. That's the consequences of a slight deviation. Now it's such a powerful thought when life is all about choices. Life is all about choices. You know, we're talking about going to Eretz Yisrael, and I told my Rebbetzin, we were in Eretz Yisrael 3 years ago, before COVID, on Sukkot. And when we were there, we went to a lot of places. We went to Marsa Machpelah, we went to Kever Rachel, we went to Pshim Bayachai, we went to Amuka, we went to a lot of places. We went to Tzvas, we went to Meron, we went to my Rebbe. But one place we didn't go to Shem, to the Kever of Yosef. At the time, we were told it wasn't so safe. Over 40 years ago, I was by the Kever of Shem, by Yosef. And I remember feeling a tremendous sense of importance to daven by Yosef to be matzliach, to fight the Yetzer Hara. Because it says that Yosef was pit beit b'yitzrah. He successfully combated his Yetzer. By the way, that's why one of the reasons why it was called Yosef HaTzadik. A tzaddik is somebody that's pit beit b'yitzrah. Life is all about tests. Every moment, should I get up? Should I not get up? Should I look? Should I not look? Should I speak harshly? Should I not? Should I pay attention? Should I not? Should I go to learn? Should I not? Life is just a series, one after another, after another, after another, of choices. And Rav Steinman is telling us that even a small deviation from proper behavior could have incredible results, incredible consequences. So we should weigh everything that we do carefully. I'll give you an example. We all know this. I want to speak it out. We know that when Sarah, who didn't know that the angels were angels, he thought they were sand-worshipping nomads, and they said that she's going to have a child, so she said, how could I have a child, right? Achrei v'loisi, after I'm withered, hoiseli edna, I'm going to be rejuvenated. And she said, Vadoni zoking, and my Lord is old. And later on, when Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Avram Avinu, about Sarah's behavior, he changed and he said that she said Vani zakanti. He changed it from Vadoni zaken. Now, as Reb Chaim Shmulevitz points out, what's so bad about saying, and my Lord is old? He was old. At the time he was 99 years old. He was old. But you can't talk about your wife, even though it's true. Even though it's true. You say, somebody says, yeah, my wife, she likes to talk a lot. It's true. But it's not a nice thing to say. She talks about herself a lot. And you can't. And here, let's face it, they were married a very long time. Because Sarah Imeinu was 15 when she married Avram, when he was 25. There was a 10-year difference between them. And, so when Avram Avinu was 99, they were married already 1 year shy of 3/4 of a century. And yet you don't say, you have to be concerned of the consequences of your speech. You don't say something even if it's true, even if you're married a long time, a good marriage. You have to be careful when you talk about one another. You just have to do that. V'Hashem Amar Hamechasa Ani Ma'Avram Asher Ani Osa. Should I hide from Avram that which I'm going to do to Sdom? V'Avram Hoya Yiyah L'Goy Gadol V'Atzam. He's going to be a great and mighty nation. So of course, the connection between the two is very difficult to understand. What's the connection? Should I hide from Avram what I'm going to do? He's going to be a big nation. What does the fact that he's going to have a big nation have to do with the nuking of Sdom? So the famous answer to this is the Dovna Magid's answer. The famous Dovna Magid, Zechet Tzadik L'Vrachas Chus Yagim Aleinu, says that Hashem said, look, I could save Avram the trouble. I know that his tefillah is not going to make a difference. I know that there isn't 50 tzaddikim. I know there isn't 10 tzaddikim. So I could save him all the trouble. But there is a big cloud. Ein tefillah chazeres reikam. No prayer is ever turned away empty-handed. And if the prayer doesn't help for what the person is praying for, then it's stored up for something for his descendants, himself or his descendants. And now the connection of the pasuk makes eminent sense. Should I hide it from Avram? But he's going to have a huge nation. And throughout their history, they could benefit from all of these tefillos of Avram Avinu. So why should I hide it from Avram? Although his tefillah is not going to be effective now, but it's going to be effective throughout the ages. And that's the connection. Hashem Amar Hamachas Ani Ma'Avram Asher Ani Yoseh. V'Avram Hoyo Yiyah L'Goy Gadol Atzim L'Goy Gadol V'Atzim. He's going to be a great and mighty nation, and his descendants are going to benefit from his prayers. And by the way, this is the accepted understanding of the connection of the beginning and end of this verse. And there's a famous shmooze from Reb Shimshon Pincus, Zechet Tzadik Levrachas Chus Yagan Aleinu. Reb Shimshon Pincus' mother-in-law became very sick. And she went into a coma, I believe, for 7 days. And during the time that she was in a coma, the whole world prayed out feverish prayers. Tillim was said, the entire Tillim was said, and many times. At the end, after a 7-day coma, she passed away. And Reb Shimshon Pincus said that all of the tefillas that were poured out for her, not one was in vain. Even though she never got up from her coma. Said, first of all, it could help her and protect her when she goes upstairs, and could help her when she goes to judgment. That's number one. But even if it doesn't help her, but those tefillas will help her descendants. There's a famous vart from the Steipler Rav, Zechet Tzadik Levrachas Chus Yagan Aleinu, that the Steipler said himself that sometimes you see from a simple family, a child is born that becomes a great Gadol B'Yisrael. And it looks a little bit unusual when, when Reb Chaim Kanievsky turns out to be a Reb Chaim Kanievsky, from such a family, it's not a wonder. But when a simple child becomes a great man, Reb Steipler said sometimes you look a little bit and wonder, how did this happen? And he said it's from the tefillah of the Baba, who every Friday night when she lit Shabbos candles, she prayed to have a child of Talmid Chacham. And even though her child didn't amount to a Talmid Chacham, those tefillahs devolve upon her grandchildren or upon her great-grandchildren. So that ain't tefillah chayzeres reik. Now this is the Dubna Maggid's approach, and it is pretty much the universal approach of the connection of the pasuk. However, I want to suggest a different pshat, which of course, I'm not saying that they're both true. That's very important to know. I'm not saying the first pshat is not correct, but the Torah is open. It's nidreshes b'shivim panim. It's nidreshes in 70 different ways, on 4 different levels. That's pardes, pshat, remez, said, and drush. So it's, and that's just the beginning. So I want to show you a different lesson from this pasuk, which I think is very true. Because you see, it says, should I hide from Avram what I'm doing? Stamazai to give bad news. There's no mitzvah. Avram Avinu died 5 years earlier in order to be spared seeing that Esav went off the derech. He was supposed to live to 180. His son Yitzchak lived till 180. He died in 175, so that when he died, Esav was not yet distinguishable as a sinner. So Avram Avinu was spared the bad news. So Hashem said, maybe I just shouldn't tell Avram what I'm doing with Sedayim. Why should he, suffer over it? And then what did Hashem say? But wait a second. And the pasuk continues. Ki yadativ, I love him. Why? Rashi says yadativ means kiba yisera. I love him. Why? Because because he's going to give instruction to his children, v'shamru derech Hashem, that they should watch the way of Hashem, la'asais tzedakah mishpat, to do charity and justice. I need to tell Avram, because he has to know that I'm nuking a city because they weren't charitable. I have to tell him that he should know. He has to guide his nation. He has to give him a Messiah. He has to know that because they didn't share and they killed the girl because she was found to giving food to an ani, hakitzah, kasa. If it's true, her screams, asu kala, then I'm going to destroy them. Avram has to put into the bloodstream of his nation that our way is a way of being charitable, is a way of caring, is a way of giving. That's the mahus. That's the essence of our nation. And that's why he didn't hide it from Avram. Now here again, I'm going to share with you two approaches, again, to an interesting question. Gedalia, how do we pronounce it? Kol Hashemei Yitzchakli, you say?
It's a shva, no.
Right, it's a shva, so... Yitzchak. Kol Hashemei Yitzchak. Right? So Sari Menu said, whoever will hear my news will laugh with me. So Rashi says it wasn't simply that they heard the good news that a 90-year-old woman gave birth. Rashi tells us that there were many miracles. And all of a sudden became a miracle season. Harba Koros Nifkadu Ima. Many women who didn't give birth gave birth with her. Harba Chaylim Nisrapu. Many sick people got better. V'roif Schaik Ba'aylam. And there was a tremendous laughter in the world. It was a time of happiness. So there's an obvious question. Question is, why did Hashem make miracles? Hashem doesn't make needless miracles. Hashem is loath to make miracles. That's why if you see an authoritative picture of the Beis Hamikdash, you'll see the spikes on top of the Beis Hamikdash. They were called Kalya Oirev. There were spikes to keep away ravens so that they shouldn't land on the top of the Beis Hamikdash and defecate and dishonor the temple. Now Hashem could have made a no-fly zone. Hashem could make a no-fly zone. It says any bird that flew over Yonasan ben Uzziel's head from the fire of his learning got burned. So you're on the top of the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem couldn't make the bird shouldn't fly. But Hashem doesn't like to do, he likes to minimize miracles. You could put a Kal Ya'irev. Why did Hashem make miracles that Goyish people should have children? Sarah. Sarah had to do valiant things in order to, what is it, valiant things. She had to do valiant things in order to have a child. She had to take a rival in her house. Why? Ike and Susie next door had a child miraculously after 25 years. Why? So it's interesting. And I tell you two different approaches to this question. The Heilige Rizhiner Rebbe, Rabbi Yisrael for Rizhin, he said they had the miracle in order that there should be preserved Bechira. Because if only Avram and Sarah had such a stupendous miracle, then everybody would say, it must be their way. There would not be no free will left in the world. Everybody would have to become Jewish. And Hashem wants to preserve free will. And therefore he made miracles for the Goyim too. So that they shouldn't point and say, well, it has to be like Avram and Sarah. And you should know that this is an idea that Hashem always wants it to be free will. This is the idea, but it has to be free will, but it has to be a choice. That's why it says when Rabbi Yeshua passed away and there were no great people to successfully debate the heretics, so then they just simply stopped being debates. There has to be a balance. And there is always a balance in the world. So it says, Zel Uma Ze Osa Elikim. Hashem always makes a balance. That's why that when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, Bilam died. Bilam ben Ba'or Horgu B'charav, because when there's a Moshe, when there's a Bilam, his foil in the world, his balance, was Moshe Rabbeinu. There's no Moshe, there's no Bilam. There's always a balance in the world. And that's the way it is with temptation as well. You know, generations earlier, they didn't have art scroll. Art scroll is an amazing thing. Before art scroll, if you didn't have a Rebbe, you remained an Amoritz. Right now you have art scroll. A person could pick up an art scroll and with diligence learn Shas. It wasn't that way. Why did Hashem give it to our generation? Because years ago they didn't have an internet where you could open up the internet and in your own home bring stuff that Stoim and Amoira did not conceive of. You have a whole world of Tumah of every variety available at your fingertips. So Hashem had to make a balance and give us art scroll, and give us Kol HaLashon, and give us Torah anytime. There's always a balance. And that's why, if you look at the generation in the Midbar, you say, you know, in the vernacular of our youth, OMG. That's what they say today. OMG, oh my God. 3 days without water? Men, women, and children in the desert? You don't have liquid to give to your children? And then you're upset that they complained? Why put them through such a temptation? 9 million Egyptians breathing down their back and they're facing a ferocious sea. Why did you put them? They just came out of Mitzrayim, give them a break. 117 years of suffering, 210 years in a land that wasn't theirs. It's not enough. And the answer is, yeah, if you want them still to have a Bechira. I mean, they just saw open miracles. They just saw 10 Makkahs. Then they saw the splitting of the sea. They're getting bread from heaven. They need to still have a Bechira. So you really have to up the ante of the challenge in order to maintain that they should still have a choice. So that's the Mahalach of Rabbi Yisrael Merizhin. Rabbi Yisrael Merizhin says that the reason why all the other Goyim, many other Goyim had miracles too, is that there should still be free will. That's Rabbi Yisrael Merizhin's Mahalach. Comes along Rav Pam, and he says a whole different pshat. Rav Pam says, righteous people can't have a complete simcha if other people in their situation are still suffering. They can't. If Sarah's next door neighbor, Ike and Susie, are still without a child, she can't feel good about having a child. She can't. You know, they say over the Rav Aaron Kotler's Rebbetzin, when she came to America, refused to put a sucking candy, refused to put sugar in her tea or coffee, as long as there was one person still suffering in the hands of the Nazis in Europe. And there's a famous story that I know from Rav Shlomo Mabavov, that when they were coming from escaping the Nazi beast, Yamach Shemam v'zichram l'deira and Olam, so the Baba Rebbe, Rav Shlomo Mabavov, the boat was tossing and turning at sea, and everybody was violently sick. And a tremendous help for the nausea was a sucking candy. And somehow the Hasidim procured for the Baba Rebbe a kosher sucking candy. They gave it to him, and he refused to put it in his mouth. And they asked why. He said, as long as there's a Yid still suffering by the Nazis, ich nehm nicht a zickerl, called it a zickerl, sucking candy in my mouth. So Rapam learns, Rapam, anybody who knows Rapam is not surprised. He said the Rabbeinu Shalom made a miracle so that Avram and Sarah's simcha should be more b'shleimus. Because if other people are still suffering, then their simcha is not b'shleimus. I'm going to share with you now a sifurnai, a very interesting sifurnai. As ha'anoshim asher pesach habayis hikol b'sadverim, we know that the people of Sodom got word that Lot had guests, so they said, that's against the law of the land, give us the guest, and Lot said no, and then they said, okay, now we're going to do worse to you than we would do to them, and they wanted to bodily molest Lot and the angels. So Hashem smote them b'sanverim. Sanverim is blindness, type of blindness. So the pasuk says, and it's such a fascinating pasuk. The pasuk says, "Es hanoshim asher pesach habayis hiku b'sanverim." The people by the door, the mad mob that was surrounded around the door, hiku b'sanverim. They were smitten with blindness, vayilu limtzay hapasach, and they wearied themselves to find the door. Says the Sifurnai. That means even after they were stricken with blindness, they continued to try to find the door to molest Lot. They didn't take the message, we're being stopped. There's a higher authority over here. We're doing something wrong. No, even with the blindness, they still continued with their wickedness. And this is the meaning, this is what the Sifurnai says. And this is the meaning that Risham afilu b'pesach shel Gehenim. The wicked, even by the opening of Gehenim, don't do tshuva. People don't say, well, oh boy, I see that somebody's trying to tell me something. No, I don't know what happened over here. There must be a sickness here. It has nothing to do with my situation. There's a story that's told by Reb Elia Lapian. It's a scary story. I guess I should tell you first that this is the famous Rashi. Many people heard this, but by Makas B'chayris. So Hashem says it's going to happen at midnight. So at midnight, it says, Vayokam Paro. Paro got up. Rashi takes his quill, dips it in ink, and on Vayokam Paro, Rashi adds one word. Rashi says, Mimi Tosai. He got up from his bed. Now, most people, where are they at midnight? They're in bed. So when the pasuk says Vayokam Paro, obviously you got it. What do you think? You got it from the jacuzzi? You got it from the gym? Obviously you got it from bed. What's Rashi adding? The answer is that even though Moshe Rabbeinu forecasted 9 makas, and they happened exactly the way Moshe Rabbeinu said it, and at the time that he said it. And although Moshe Rabbeinu said the firstborn would die at midnight, and Paro was a firstborn, where was he at midnight? He went to sleep. He got up from bed. That's a Russia. Doesn't get the message. So Rabbi Elia Lapian says a scary story. Rabbi Elia Lapian said in Kelm, there was a famous Dybbuk. And the Dybbuk seized a person, and out of the person was coming a strange voice. Not the person's voice. Everybody saw it. And suddenly, when the Chachamim came to purge the Dybbuk started a whole slew of obscene language. And they asked the Dybbuk at the time, he's suffering so much, why does he continue his behavior? He sees now the repercussions of his behavior. And the Dybbuk said mournfully, he cannot break out from the habits of a lifetime. Scary thing when a person gets enmeshed in their wickedness. Vatitzchak Sarah Bekir Balema. So here, Rav Shmuel Mekamnika, was a big gadol. He had a daughter who was barren for many, many years. They came to their town to visit the town the great tzaddik, Reb Rafal Barashid. He was a very great tzaddik. And she went to him, the daughter went to him, for a bracha to have a child. So Reb Rafal told her, Skula lebanim hi simcha. A skula to have children is to be in a happy state of mind. So when Reb Shmuel's daughter came back to her father said, this advice is in Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim. It's in Torah because it says before Sarah Imenu had a child, that Titzchak Sarah Bekirba. She laughed, she was happy. It's in the Nevi'im, it says Rani Akara Lo Yalada. It's in the Haftarah that we learn a lot. And it could be interpreted Rani Akara Lo Yalada. Sing, one who is barren and didn't give birth. Be in a good frame of mind. And he says it's in Ksuvim, we say it in Hallel, Moishivi Akeres Habayis. He restores the barren one to have a home. Eimabonim Smeicha Hallelujah. He says this idea that when someone is in a happier frame of mind, it's more likely that they'll be fertile. And in general, this yesod is true for a sick person to get better as well. One who is lost hope, is all worried and depressed, is less likely to get better. That's why it's not always good to tell a person what their condition is, if it's not necessary. And that's why we wish people in a Mishabeirach a refuas hanefesh and refuas haguf. First refuas hanefesh, because there has to be a refuas hanefesh and there has to be restored simcha in order to have a refuas haguf. Now I'm going to talk to you about something that people that are familiar with my shiurim know that I've spoken about this in years past. Every year I add layers to the subject. And I'm going to add layers. Hashem, thank you Hashem. He gave me new ideas about this fascinating subject. Fascinating subject. Ve'alaboker Ratz Avram. We know that Avram was serving the guests 3 bakar, 3 cattle, so he could serve them 3 tongues with mustard. And it says, Ve'alaboker Ratz Avram. And to the bakar, Avram ran, which means that one of the cattle got away. And here he is, Avram Avinu, in his 3rd day, in the heat of the sun, is chasing this cattle. So says the Zohar, and it's also a Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer, that the cattle ran, and it ran, and Avram chased it, and took him all the way to Hebron. And he saw they're elevated, the Lashon Hazayir is, they're elevated up the graves of Adam and Chava, and he saw that that was the burial place of Adam and Chava, and he recognized that it was a great place of prayer. He desired to be buried there. So that all happened on this day with the angels by him and the day of hospitality. Adds the Sefer Chesed LaAvram. This I was unaware of till this year, but the Oitzer Aplois and Bereshis brings it down. I must have saw it, but I didn't, at least I didn't remember it, because I did learn through the Oitzer Aplois and Bereshis when it came out. But the Chesed LaAvram was written by the Zayda of the Chidah. He was a very great man. The Zayd of the Chidah wrote the Sefer Chesed LaAvram. And he writes there that there's a medrash that Raphael, the angel of Raphael, who was in the house because he cured Avram, he was one of the three angels, he cured Avram, he disguised himself as a bakar, and he is the one that ran to the Maris Machpelah and had Avram chase him. After Avram saw the Maris Machpelah, then Raphael disappeared, and that's why it says Asher Asa, that the third cattle Avram Avinu had to make from the Sefer Yetzirah, because at the end the cattle disappeared because it was really a Raphael, and he even goes so far to say that the name Raphael, Reish Pei Aleph Lamed, is a anagram of Par El, a mighty bull, because he masqueraded himself as a bakar in order to take Avram Avinu to the Maris Machpelah. So here, to me, it comes along the Balaturim and the Paneach Raza, and the Balaturim and the Paneach Raza both say that Ve'el HaBakar is the same letters as Ve'el HaKever. And HaBakar and HaKever are the same letters. So Ve'el HaBakar is Ve'el HaKever Ratz Avram. He ran to the grave of the Maris Machpelah. That's what the Balaturim and the Paneach Raza says. So all the years, I have the same question. It troubles me so much. Why today did Hashem have to show Avram Avinu the Maris Machpelah? It was a busy day. The Rebbeinu Shalom was waiting. Remember, he said, Rebbeinu Shalom came to visit Avram, Vayeira love Avram, right? And then Avram had to put Hashem on hold. Imagine you have, excuse me Hashem, I have company. Could you wait for me? Right? That's what he said. The Yomer Adonai, Al no sava me alavdech. That's one shot. Don't leave me. I got company. And that's where we learn out. So he put aside the Shechina in order to speak to the guests. So he had Hashem on hold. He had people waiting in the house. It was hot outside. It was the third day of his Milah. Give him a break. You want to show him even Sari Menu is not going to die for another 37 years. She was 90. She wouldn't die till 127. They have 37 years to pick a plot. Avram wouldn't die until 175. Don't you think today was a busy day? Why today Raphael had to change into a cattle in order that Avram should run while Hashem is waiting, while the angels are waiting? There has to be a whole story over here. Why Hashem chose just this moment. Okay. So in years past, I gave 3 answers to this question. I never found anybody ask the question. They all talk about what happened. They don't say why. One answer is that it was Mida Keneged Mida because of Ishanu Tachas Ha'etz. He gave them lodging. He merited to have the lodging in the grave in the Maris Machpelah. Okay, one possibility. Another possibility is that it's only now that he became eligible to entry into the Maris Machpelah, because you can't go into the Maris Machpelah if you're not circumcised. That's why Esav, only his head is there. His body couldn't be there, because Esav wasn't circumcised. So it's only now, after he was circumcised, that he was first, as soon as he was eligible, Hashem wanted to show him. Okay. A third possibility is Avram was not ready to think about death until he heard that he would have a continuity. He'd have a child. Now that he was told he would have a child, and there'll be a continuity, now he could think about death. Those are three possibilities. Okay. But now I added fuel to the fire, which made me really start thinking this morning. I added fuel to the fire. And that is this the job of Raphael? Raphael is the angel of relief. That's why after Raphael cured Avram, he would go to save light. Raphael is the angel of relief, the angel of rescue. Is he the proper shliach to show Avram where he's going to be buried? It even sounded to me like a strange messenger. And therefore it made me realize, that's because you're not looking at it the right way. By one Nichem Avelim, a tzaddik came into the house to try to comfort the family that lost a young relative. And they said, imagine that is in a mother's stomach twins. 2 boys. They're learning b'chavrusa, because they're both being taught Torah from the angel. And they're learning in this cocoon, a veritable paradise from a malach. They're learning Torah, and then all of a sudden, one of the twins dies, leaves, disappears. The other twin says, my partner died. Didn't die. Went out to his purpose. So the same thing, when a person passes away and they're a good person, they're going to their purpose. They're going to the Olam HaEmes. When Avram Avinu was showed the Maris Machpelah, that's a place where he's going to be born. Why do Hasidim have on a yahrzeit tikkun? To people that are uninitiated, it looks bizarre. What are you celebrating? You're drinking a l'chaim, eating cupcakes, eating frosted cake on the anniversary of the death of your parent? Yeah, because it's his birthday to the next world. The Chassam Sofer says that's the famous pshat. It says that Haman knew that he was celebrated because in the month of Adar, Moshe Rabbeinu died. It says he didn't know that he was born. It says he knew that he was born in Adar. But still, he was happy he died then. But he didn't realize that the day that he died, that's the day that he was born to the next world. And therefore, on the day that he was given the news about the birth of his son Yitzchak, that's the perfect day to show the place where he'll be born in the next world. And that's why the Panech Raz and the Baal Turim say, Vel ha-boker, Ratz Avram, Vel ha-boker is Vel ha-kever, but it's also Vel ha-boker, to the new morning. Vel ha-boker, Ratz Avram. That's why it was Malch Raphael. So Malch Raphael shows the gateway to be born to the next world. It's true that we call a cemetery a Beis HaChaim. Everybody assumes that it's called a Beis HaChaim because that's where the dead will come back to life at the resurrection. It's true. But it's also Beis HaChaim because that's where they're born for the next world. It's a whole new way of looking at Vel HaBakar Ratz Avram. But now, we're not finished yet. There's more secrets in these words, El Abakar. People don't realize how many secrets there are in the Torah. Vel Abakar Ratz Avram, says the Oyel Aryeh. What other word is Habakar? Ve'el Rivka Ratz Avram. Habakar is the same lashon as letters as Rivka. Because at this point, Avram Avinu was told about Rivka. So you'll say, what does Rivka have to do with this? I mean, we heard about the birth of Yitzchak, but Rivka? What does Rivka have to do with this? What does the Ramban say? If you look at the Ramban on El Abakar Ratz Avram, the Ramban, I have to tell you his poetic language. Niralani as daite he doesn't say Nira, he says El Abakar Ratz Avram lahagid roiv cheshkasai benedivus, to show his great cheshik, his great love and desire to be generous, that he ran to the cattle. That's Rivka. What was Rivka? What was Vatora Tanara? She ran to give water to the camels, to Eliezer. Her cheshik, to, maybe put the chair away. The cheshik to the, no, just the noise is making noise. Her cheshik to do chesed. As Rabbi Yonasan Steif says, it said she walked with kada al shikma, the picture on her shoulder. And it says that detail to say she was advertising. I'm available to help you. Why was Avram Avinu Zaycha to have a Rivka? Because of his running, because of his cheshik, which, by the way, reveals a tremendous thing, that we, with our activity, could influence the shidduchin of our descendants. Avram Avinu influenced the shidduchim of his children with his behavior. It's an amazing idea. This is the idea is my idea, but this Vel Abakar Ratz Avram is in Rabbi Label Katz's Sefer Vel Rivka Ratz Avram. Before we proceed, I want to take the opportunity to mention that the next year will be broadcast from Eretz Yisrael. I'm going to Eretz Yisrael. So it'll be broadcast next week in Eretz Yisrael. We need a sponsor for next week. So if anybody out there in the Wild Blue Yonder is interested in sponsoring the shir from Eretz Yisrael, 718-916-3100. Available by text, by WhatsApp, and of course also by email, rmmwsi@aol.com. We're also going to have later on this week the smaller share called For the Shabbos Table, Parshas Vayeira, which I might broadcast also before I leave, I'm not sure. Here's an interesting question. By the Akedas Yitzchak, we can't go through the Parsha without mentioning something on the Akedah. Avram placed him on the Mizbeach, on top of the wood. Now, anybody that's learned Daf Yomi, and learned Masechtas Vachim, Masechtas Tamid, everybody knows that we don't put the sacrifice on the Mizbeach. We never put this. We never do the Shechita on the Mizbeach. We do the Shechita on the side of the Mizbeach. Right? If it's Kachay Kachim, like an Oshim, like a Chatas, we do it on the Tzafin, on the north. Kachay Kachim, Shechita Tzafin, on the northern side. If it's any other carbon, like a Shlamim, like a Taida, Baisa Behema, right? It's done B'kol Makom Ma'azara, but it's done on the side of Mizbeach. What's going on? What goes on the Mizbeach? The blood. Right? And we put the emurim, the sacrificial portions. But we don't do the shechita on the Mizbeach. So why did Avraham Avinu bind him and put him ala Mizbeach b'maleitzim? It's an interesting question. So, Reb Label Katz answers that an animal is not intrinsically holy. We dedicated it, but it's not intrinsically holy. It's still an animal. And therefore it doesn't belong on the Mizbech, except for the sacrificial portions, except for the blood. But Yitzchak was Kuloi Kaddish. He was an Oila Tamima. He belonged entirely on the Mizbech. That's what he said. But I would like to offer a variety of other answers to this question. The first one is by a regular carbon that we learn about in Vayikra, that we do in the Beis Hamikdash. The Ikar Avodah is not the Shechita. The proof of that is that the Shechita is kosher bizarre. A non-kain could do the Shechita. The Ikar Avodah is the dam, is sprinkling the blood on the Mizbech. Ki adam hu hanefesh. And therefore the Shechita doesn't go on the Mizbech. Here, what was the Ikar Avodah of Akedas Yitzchak? That Avraham Avinu was ready to shecht his own son. Here the Ikar Avodah is the Shechita. That has to be done on the Mizbech. To me, that I think is the main answer to this question. There's another answer, which is also, I think, a good answer. And that is, you know why we're allowed to have Shechita on the side of the Mizbech? Because the Beis Hamikdash is holy. The Azara was holy. The Azara was holy. That wasn't true at the time of the Akedah. What was holy is the Mizbeach that he made. It wasn't a Makam HaMikdash yet. So therefore, on the side of the Mizbeach, he couldn't do it. He had to do it on the Mizbeach, the place of holiness. I'll give you a third answer that I was thinking about. And that is, you know why the Shechita doesn't take place on the Mizbeach in the Beis Hamikdash? Because the whole animal doesn't go on the Mizbeach. There's hefshit, there's nituach, it has to be flayed, it has to be cut up. But here, Yitzchak was to be offered entirely on the Mizbeach. Lushi ve'asiyu guys. Lushi. Such an obvious question. People see, right? Avraham Avinu told Sarah. Avraham Avinu told Sarah, Lushi v'asiyu guys. Knead and make cakes. Excuse me. She was 90 years old. You have to tell a 90-year-old baker, Lushi. Such an obvious question. Lushi, you go upstairs and tell your wife, we have guests. You know, put in the beans. Put in the beans? Excuse me? What do you have to tell Sari Menu Lushi? So the Tamei Minhagim, used to be every house had a Tamei Minhagim. My Tamei Minhagim is in the closet over there with 40 boxes still. But the Tamei Minhagim says that it's because it was Erev Pesach. You know, it says that Avraham Avinu was making matzahs. It was Erev Pesach. And he was reminding Sarah Lushi, work with the dough, that it shouldn't become chametz. That's why he said Lushi. That's a Tamei Minhagim's answer. I saw this year that the Lisadein Ba'avosai says a different thing. He says the guests are in a rush. Don't wait the dough to rise. Lushi vasiyuges. Knead the dough, put it straight in the oven. We don't have time for that now. I know you would wait till it rises, but lushi vasiyuges. Now I don't know, grammatically, how do you translate lushi? Is it a directive that she should knead it? Probably, right? So that's another answer. Avram Avinu was aware of what Rashi was talking about, that whatever we do ourselves, Hashem will reward himself. So she said, Lushi, don't delegate it. Make sure you do it yourself. We're going to conclude with what I think is a very powerful thought. Very powerful. Hashem said, and Avram Avinu said, Im emtza b'stoim chamishim tzadikim b'seicha. If I find in stoim 50 tzadikim. Now why does it say the word im emtza? Let's just say im yesh b'stoim chamishim tzadikim b'seicha. Here I won't destroy. Why does it say im emtza? So the Ramban asked the kasha, and the Ramban says that even if they aren't citizens of Stein, even if they're just visiting, I won't punish if they're there. Im emtza b'stein chamishim tzadikim. Even if they just happen to be there, I won't destroy them. That's what the Ramban says. Comes along the Mishra Shemen, a wonderful sefer. Mishra Shemen, Zech Tzadik L'Vrach Tzchus Yagin Aleinu. He says, if so, then why we know that Avram Avinu had a yeshiva? Why didn't he send 10 of his 308 Talmidim to go to Sodom and say, Sodom had, Rabbi used to say Sodom had 3 million people. Send 10 yeshiva guys there and save the place. The Ramban says, even if they just happen to be there, let Avram run over there himself. Says the Mishra Shemen, it's a chilling idea. He says Avram Avinu is not sending 10 Kol Yungalite to Sodom. It's not safe. The influence of Sodom was too dangerous, even for a short time, even to save 3 million people. That's the influence of a wicked place. And you should know that when Yaakov sent Malachim to Esav, so Rashi says he sent Malachim Mamish. So the simple idea is he didn't feel it was safe to send humans. Esav would slaughter them. But they say a different shot. Yaakov felt it's not safe to send anybody but Malachim to go to see Esav. His environment was too dangerous. And it's interesting that we know that there's a famous taina on the angels that went to destroy Sodom. That the angels said, Ki mashchisim anachnu es hamokim. We're destroying the place. And Hashem said, oh yeah? You're destroying the place? Really? That's the way you talk. Ki mashchisim anachnu. That's a famous thing, that Hashem clipped their wings and they weren't able to go back to Shemayim. And they say that that's what it says, the vision of the ladder. He named Malachi Elikim Oilim, that the angels tried to climb up the ladder because they didn't have wings, but Hashem sent them back down. They weren't yet worthy to come back to Shemayim. But they say that's pshat. In L'Sadin Bavos, he says, Ki meshchisim anachnu. That's not the way angels talk, but they came to Sodom. Sodom was very haughty. And they were affected by Sodom, even angels. And by the way, that's the meaning of when it says in the Haggadah Shel Pesach, Ani v'loy malach. Ani v'loy saraf. I, Hashem, not a malach. I am not a fiery angel. Why? Because it wasn't even safe to send malachim down to Mitzrayim. The Hashpah of Mitzrayim was so terrible that it wasn't even safe to send malachim there. And we have to know that this is really important in our society today. The world out there is an extremely liberal world where anything goes. And it's extremely contagious. That's why we never had before such a plague of children that are doing literally, all kinds of terrible things. Because that's the society we live in. We have to know, we see from these lessons, that Avram wouldn't send 10 people down to Snaim to save Snaim. It wasn't safe for them. Chayecha kaidim. So, for the next Mitzvah Hashem, my wife and I are leaving to Eretz Yisrael tomorrow night. We're going to have a shir, the Daf Yomi, on Zoom from the airport, hopefully at around 7:30. And then the Daf Yomi in the ensuing days, not on Wednesday, there's no Daf on Wednesday, the day I arrive, but on Thursday, and next week, the Daf is going to be at 5:15 in the afternoon at zoom.com with meeting ID 718-916-3100. We thank you for joining us and wish you a wonderful week and a wonderful Shabbos.